Hong Kong Direct is your weekly insight that delivers you the best of everything Hong Kong racing. It's fantastic to have you joining us on the show this week. I'm Tom Wood, and here's what we have coming up for you. It is the 39th Asian Racing Conference, which has been taking place in Melbourne this week. We hear from the Secretary General of the Asian Racing Federation. And we also hear from Harry Bentley about his time in Qatar as a six-time champion jockey in successive seasons and life in general in the Middle East. Well, I'm pleased to say this week here on Hong Kong Direct, we've been joined by the Executive Director of Racing for the Hong Kong Jockey Club and Secretary General of the Asian Racing Federation, Andrew Harding, who's live from Melbourne at the 39th Asian Racing Conference. Andrew, thank you for your time. How much of a success this week, over the last 3 or 4 days, has the conference been there in Melbourne?
Tom, the consensus is, and I've spoken to a lot of people over the course of the week, is that this has been a huge success, and indeed it's been an extremely important conference for racing, not just in Asia, but globally.
What have been some of the key messages that have been shared over the last 3 or 4 days, and some of the important issues that the conference has been tackling?
Well, it's not an exaggeration to say that I really think there's been nothing left out. We started on Tuesday with an address from the club CEO, Winfried Engelbert-Breskes, in which he looked at the landscape and he looked at every aspect of the sport, from wagering right through to sustainability and everything in between. And he really set the scene for 3 days of really intensive discussions on the issues we face and the opportunities that we're presented with. But probably the most significant outcome, it's difficult to pick, has been the realisation that we really face a great opportunity, but we need to grasp it and do it quickly in terms of understanding Gen Z and responding to what they will want in terms of a value proposition from racing in the future.
And how does something like that get progressed forward out of a conference like this with all the member jurisdictions that are part of the Asian Racing Federation? How do you sort of all get together and then discuss a way forward to implementing some of those ideas?
Look, it's a lot of things, Tom. The Asian Racing Conference is a marketplace of ideas. So the first thing that we want to do when we stage one of these is to make sure that we have the best brains, the subject matter experts coming together and giving their thoughts. We've achieved that. So we're provoking people to think about these issues, and we're furnishing them with the research. So Gary Liu spoke on Gen Z in both on the first day of the conference again this afternoon, and he really opened people's eyes to what this new generation represents and what the opportunities are in terms of non-fungible tokens, the metaverse. So that's the first thing that a conference like this does. And then how do you progress it? Well, people will do that individually. The connections that people have forged, that also provides an opportunity for cooperation here and there. And then when it's appropriate, the Asian Racing Federation itself will form special task forces, council. So, for example, today we heard from the ARF Council on Anti-Illegal Betting and Related Financial Crime. That was set up by the Asian Racing Federation after the Asian Racing Conference in Mumbai. And since then, it's done an enormous amount of work and really placed the industry in a much stronger position in dealing with that issue.
Moving away from that to another topic that has been discussed through the course of the last few days, mental health. You chaired a session called The Mind. What were some of the key messages to come from that?
Look, there were several, but I can't talk about that subject without acknowledging GBoss. What Glenn gave to the audience was really beyond value in terms of bringing home the realisation that this is not a peripheral issue. This is an issue that is of absolute importance to to racing, and it's let's face it, it's an issue that society needs to do better at. And what came from that session and what Glenn, in terms of what he has shared, has done so much to address is removing this stigma that has historically been attached to saying, I'm not okay. I've got some struggles at the moment with my mental health. And we had a good discussion, and the panelists were able to make a good contribution towards setting out what are the things that then can be done in terms of programs, in terms of assistance to jockeys, because we know the particular challenges they face, but to all of the industry's participants.
For sure, we know what an important aspect throughout life, general life as well, that mental health plays in all of our lives. Now, quickly before we wrap up, Andrew, you've no doubt rubbed shoulders with plenty of the dignitaries from various jurisdictions around the Asian region. What's the overall feeling about the health of racing within the Asian Racing Federation, and how's the future looking going forward?
It's, I think it's a buoyant feeling. The world has come through just a nightmare, the global pandemic, and we know that there are ongoing challenges. The earthquake in Turkey, we've got delegates from Turkey here. We feel for what is going on there, the weather events in New Zealand, the ongoing conflict in Europe. So the world hasn't got through challenges, but we heard in the opening sessions from Winfred sort of a state of the industry. It's in good shape, and there's reason to be optimistic because whilst there are things that are going to be difficult, there's a world of opportunity available for us as well. Racing is inherently a very attractive sport. It inspires passion, and that's something that we can build on and make even stronger.
Yep, and for sure, may that long continue. Andrew, we appreciate your time, giving us some time of yours through that busy schedule you've had there in Melbourne to speak to us on Hong Kong Direct this week. Thank you.
You're welcome, Tom. Thanks.
Well, fresh off tasting success on Wednesday night at Happy Valley, Harry Bentley has trekked across to a country that he knows oh so well. That is Qatar, where he is going to partner one of the Hong Kong horses there in the form of Senor Toba for Casper Found's Russian Emperor to do battle there as well for his trainer Douglas White. The first time that Hong Kong representation has been in Qatar. And they do battle this weekend in the Amir Trophy over the 2,400 metres. And Harry Bentley, a six-time champion jockey in Qatar, shares his thoughts on the racing jurisdiction there.
Yeah, so I've spent quite a lot of years there, as you mentioned. Very competitive racing. The track is relatively tight. It's probably the best part of a mile round, and yeah, they go pretty hard as well. So it's not too dissimilar to the racing style here in Hong Kong. And it's a mixture between they have some Arabian races as well as mainly thoroughbred.
In your time there, as I say, you were champion on 6 occasions, plenty of success. I think there was a season where you rode well over 100 winners. I'm not sure if that's still a record or not, but what was it that you enjoyed about riding in Qatar?
Yeah, so that year particularly was a highlight for me. It's got a lot of support, and no, it was numerically a fantastic year. I've always just enjoyed the racing style out there, and I spent many years in the Middle East, and it just felt as though I was able to network pretty well. As I say, the racing style is quite fast and furious, which I always seem to sort of enjoy that style of riding.
What is that event like as far as a sort of a carnival of racing? Obviously, we have a big meeting here in December, of course. There is Royal Ascot back home, something you're very familiar with. But what's that big meeting, the Amir Sword meeting in Qatar, like as far as a racing spectacle?
Well, I've always found that year on year it's stepped its game up as an international fixture. And I think this year particularly, having had a brief look at the race cards, it's attracting a lot better quality horses year on year, and the prize money's also been ramped up, and I guess that brings the good horses. So yeah, you've got a collection of English, Irish and French horses, among others, that and obviously Hong Kong. They're going to be travelling to Qatar, and the card looks strong. There's some good names in there.
Our thanks as well to Jockey Club veterinarian Stevie O'Connor for supplying the photos and the videos there from Qatar. Well, in the next few days, we've got a busy couple of meetings here in Hong Kong. Of course, we race here on Sunday at Sha Tin with the TVB Cup. That is the feature event. 12:30, we're on air with the first race coming through at 1 o'clock. Wednesday night, Happy Valley, 9 races. And then, of course, the City Hong Kong Gold Cup at Group 1 level coming up next Sunday at Sha Tin, the 26th. And also the second leg of the Hong Kong 4-year-old series in the form of the Classic Cup over 1,800 metres. And with the City Hong Kong Gold Cup just around the corner, we thought it would be timely to bring you the replay of Russian Emperor. Of course, Russian Emperor doing battle in Qatar over the weekend, but he won the Gold Cup going back to last year, the City Hong Kong Gold Cup for Blake Shin and Douglas White. We'll leave you with that replay, and we'll look forward to joining you again here on Hong Kong Direct next week. Bye-bye.
Russian Emperor took inside runs to get ahead of the champ. Dabrowski's in front. Russian Emperor, Savvy 9, Golden 60, has plenty to do. Russian Emperor's in front with 100 metres to go. Make it 200. He's 3 lengths in front of Savvy 9. Torbian Diamond, Golden 60. Russian Emperor's well clear. Blake Shin's going to get his Golden 60 redemption with an absolute brilliant ride on Russian Emperor. Russian Emperor beats Savvy 9, Golden 60.